with the family of the young girl that is hopefully, Lord, just standing in the wilderness, just lost, just for somebody to save them. Father, our hearts go out to our family and for other kids, Lord, that is in disarray in dismay. Heavenly Father, this is our prayer. We ask this in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Next, approve our agenda items. Approve it for you. Glad. Second. All in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. All right. Up next, our public hearing. Public hearing order 753, orders authorizing the execution and delivery of a property transfer agreement with a transfer of property from the county of Marlboro to location Jefferson College. Mr. Mullins.
This is a public hearing necessary for the transfer of the Winn-Dixie property to NETC for the ongoing vocational education program and facility they're putting there. We have also on the agenda the ordinance for the third reading, and at that time we'll ask that council approve this and delegate authority to the attorney and the administrator to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed and proceed with the transfer. This is the public hearing for the final reading of the former Carolina AAC property, the old spec building in the industrial park. If you'll remember, they have the company had difficulty, and they've now reorganized and are going at it again, and have asked for the same incentives as they had with Carolina AAC, which council has read twice and approved. One thing that we did require is that they make improvements to the facility and clean up the property and make some improvements to the building where it had fallen into disrepair before council would consider third reading. So I have kept track of that, and I went there last night. They have done that. The only thing they have not done is replace the awning, which I asked, but they did take the old awning off the frame, so they're waiting for the awning to come in. So it's my recommendation that council proceed with third reading. I'm satisfied with the requirements have been met, and in hopes that they will take this thing and make it work and create jobs for people in the county.
Any questions, council? Anything there? All right. Public hearing is closed. Thank you. Next, number 3 is approval of minutes from April 11th, 2017.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes as written.
Principal motion, with second, all in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. All right. Next, old business, ordinance 753, and this is the ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a property transfer agreement for the transfer of property from the county of Marlboro to Northeastern Technical College, third reading. Anything else, Mr. Mullins?
No, just again, we ask that if you approve this, you allow Mr. Easton and myself to get the fine details down within the parameters of what you've approved and execute the necessary documents.
All right. With that recommendation, we have a motion. Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, it's unanimous. Ordinance 754, ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee agreement by between Marlboro County, South Carolina, for Vegas Ventures LLC, providing for payment of fee and lieu taxes and other matters related thereto. Anything else on that one?
No, just one other point is that everything that you are approving, there are no upfront incentives. These are tax incentives after they have things in place, after they're actually doing something. So you're not at risk for anything.
All right. With that recommendation, we have a motion. So move. Mr. Woods. Mr. Plato, second. All in favor, raise your right hand. It is unanimous. Ordinance number 755, ordinance to adopt the annual budget and make appropriations for Marlboro County of this year beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30, 2018, second reading. Mr. Mullins.
As we discussed in our budget workshop, we're asking you to approve the second reading of the budget. Obviously, there's 3 readings, and I've asked the chairman if we could have another budget workshop before the 3rd reading. Not the same day, but enough time for you all to see it and digest it and have time for questions. And also, we'll get you a draft version with the changes from today's meeting. Basically, today's meeting resulted in a total budget of $11.3 million in revenue to fund that, with $643 out of reserve. If you remember, last year we were 1.1 out of reserve. There are other options we discussed to drop the reserve more. Those things require more work from from the staff, and we'll provide that with you. But for the sake of the second reading, those are the totals involved, and they represent significant cuts and fee enhancements to prevent the necessary, the taxes that would necessarily have to be raised. We've tried to find that in cuts and find that in fees, so we don't have to raise property taxes. There's a lot of work to be done. We're going about it in a different way. You know, as I told you guys, I've looked at every single line of the budget along with Ms. Ainsley and other staff members. So I think we're making progress. We appreciate the direction from council today. I will be sure to set an individual meeting with the council members that weren't able to make it from other obligations, so they're up to speed as well. Very important budget here for the county.
Any questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve ordinance 75, second reading? So moved. Immediately. Ms. Plato, second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to abstain since I missed the budget meeting today due to prior commitments. And I've agreed to meet with our administrator to go over everything, so I'll know exactly what's going on.
Okay. We'll get a hand raised again, then we have a step. All right, we have one more step. All right. Thank you. You get that? Okay. All right. Thank you. Up next, ordinance 76, ordinance to approve the capital improvement plan for Marlboro County period fiscal year 2018 to 2022 second reading. Shimon?
Yeah, you'll see it in your packet, and it's a document we consider every year at budget time that gives us a 4-year look out at capital needs we'll have. You know, one thing that will change before 3rd reading is we'll be able to fine tune this a little bit with the bond proceeds I'll discuss in new business. So this will, we'll have a little more input from council and staff before we get to the final reading.
With that, we have a motion for ordinance 76. So moved. Mr. Woods. Mr. Gladden, second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, it is unanimous. And it's the next work session we have, we'll try to coordinate a little more, to make sure everybody can be here. You know, some have prior commitments, and so we'll try to make sure that we'll make sure everybody can be here in the next work session. We'll work around. So we may send out some dates to make sure it works for everybody. We want everybody. Next, new business. Ordinance 757, ordinance provide for the insurance and sale of not exceeding $1 million general obligation bond of Marlboro County, South Carolina, to prescribe the purposes for which the proceeds of said bond shall be expended, provide for the payment of said bond and other matters related thereto. First reading out of order. Mr. Dillon.
This is a continuation of work that was done last year. In 2007, the county borrowed $4 million for improvements and repairs to buildings, and they set a tax millage at that time to make the payment on the money. And so what happened last year is staff was able to refinance that money, and then this is a continuation of that that'll result in freeing up between $750,000 and $1 million in money that can be used for these emergency repairs we have to make that I told you about. The good thing is it will not require any change in the tax millage at all, and it will also pay off in the 10 years left in the original agreement. So the terms of the loan, the period of the loan does not extend, and the amount that the citizens have to pay for it does not go up. Yes, ma'am.
So the savings will be negotiated for a lower interest rate?
The first part was a lower interest rate, which lowered the payment, which freed up money to then get more money at the same lower rate. So, it's not ideal, but in our current situation, it's pretty close to ideal. It saved us, in the budget hearing today, it saved us, the budget workshop, $150,000 to $200,000 we would have had to put in the budget next year.
So we're borrowing money.
Mm-hmm.
How much is the borrowing, $1 million?
Well, when you have tax millage coming in, it varies how much comes in. So on the conservative side, it should generate enough money above and beyond the original payment to create a new payment that would support $750,000. On the high end, in the best case, it may support $1 million. So we've asked for $1 million just to cover ourselves. We cannot exceed a total of $4 million because in South Carolina you have a constitutional debt limit of 8% of your assessed value. I believe that's correct. Is that right?
Yes.
And so we would never go past that. The school district does this a good bit, you know, and so it's a practice done here and there, and it is something that'll keep us from raising taxes next year to pay for building roofs and all. It's a, you know, it's a game, yeah, I mean. Yes, ma'am. And this is by title only. We'll tie the number down before final reading.
Any questions? No, we have a motion, first reading, title only, ordinance 77.
So moved.
Dr. Evans, Mr. Woods, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, it is unanimous, thank you. Up next, proclamation for Teen Pregnancy Prevention Month, and I think we've got a thing on Thursday evening. We'll actually be reading that out loud and to in that and receiving, so we will have that. They've got a thing for that, so that is a good thing for us. It's the proclamation of Teen Pregnancy Month. So we'll just go ahead and go with a motion to approve the proclamation of Teen Pregnancy Prevention Month.
So moved.
We have approved in second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. Resolution 05-1701, resolution authorizing Marlboro County to enter into an agreement with the city of Ventisville to provide for the exchange of services between the city of Ventisville and Marlboro County. Mr. Muller.
This is a long-standing agreement we've had that we have renewed several times, and I know when I was on council, we challenged it a few times and said we needed to look harder at it. What I'm asking for you all to do is to approve it for one more year. I've met with Max Alderman, and he and I both are in agreement that this isn't the year to dig into it. The only reason we would dig into it is some of the things that are traded back and forth have changed, and as you might expect. And at some point, we need to sit down on a dry eraser board and write what we're providing and what they're providing and even it out. But it is a complicated agreement. It is working, the services are happening, and I ask that you approve it for just 1 year, not 3 years. I think they discussed it last night at their work session. I don't know what their response was.
Any questions? No?
Well, just a brief comment. I think we had some numbers generated by previous administrators that showed clearly just how much more the county was putting toward that. And all the city did was just raise their numbers just to match ours, which it didn't seem fair. So hopefully we get some clarity on some things.
Well, I think that's the difficulty is not only do I need the time to know our numbers, but I need the time to look at their numbers too. I believe
They
you're,
didn't send their numbers.
yeah, I believe you're right. I believe they took the cost to run the fire department by the percentage of calls, you know, and so we need to sit down. But this isn't the year, in my recommendation is that it
For
is
1 year.
Yes.
1 year.
All right. With that recommendation, we have a motion for 1 year? Sir, motion. All right. Mr. Odom, initially, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. Next, resolution 05-1702, resolution authorizing Marlboro County to renew the agreement with Marlboro County Rescue providing paramedic level emergency service and transfer service throughout Marlboro County. Mr. Muller.
This also is an agreement that's gone for several years, and so this request is to renew it for another year. Basically, the county collects tax millage on everyone in the county's tax bill that is to be used to provide emergency medical services. The Public Safety Committee met with EMS, also the Charities Trust Board. I think there's a report later on. But from that meeting and from subsequent discussions with the EMS people, last year the amount was $690,000 that was provided to them for giving us service. And during the year, we gave them another $50,000 in light of the hospital situation, and then they were trying to adjust. So after talking with Jeff Bone, who's in charge of that, we request that we make the contract base amount $725 and not $690, without the promise of the other $50. If there's a need and the need comes to council, you could certainly consider that. One thing that was presented in the budget workshop is, with this fund, like the fire service fund, a certain amount of money comes in every year and we pay it out for this. And it's my intention to keep a reserve there equal to about 3 months worth of service, 25%. And then past that, then we use this to fund the rescue squad. And also fund a dispatcher out of 911, because they are just, I mean, since the hospital's gone, it's just call after call after call after call. The other part of the 725 is that they have been paying Wallace Rescue and at one time Clio Rescue to back them up. Clio Rescue doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist. So we corrected the amount in the contract to reflect what actually has been happening, which are giving $25,000 or $30,000 to Wallace. Also, I'm asking you all to approve the contract at $725, but also give me the authority to work with whoever I need to develop a protocol for when they dispatch Wallace Rescue. Because there have been cases where all the EMS people are tied up and they could dispatch Wallace to come back them up, and it's sort of at the discretion of dispatchers and all, and we want to make that a rule so that the dispatchers understand. And Mr. Bone is comfortable with that. It's no problem. It's not a criticism. It's just a need. So I know I said a lot, but we're asking that you approve $725,000 to maintain the service level we've had before. Also to establish a protocol for how we dispatch Wallace Rescue.
Any questions? Comments?
I have a brief comment. And this is a personal situation. It just seemed odd that I guess all of our ambulances were tied up, and Chilwell came to pick up a resident from Chilwell to here, back to Chilwell, and had a heart attack. They don't have cardiac service, so that was wasted 30 minutes of his life, and he was transported to Florence. So I don't understand the protocol. I would love for the trust to buy another ambulance. I mean, we desperately need more ambulances given the situation, so I don't know how we go about that. But that's something that needs to happen in the county.
And we talked briefly a little bit about that is with the public safety unit. We met, and we give a report, but it was requested for the public safety to meet again with the Charities Trust. Again, and see if we can't get some more information and see if there is something that can be done to help with the lack of, I guess it'd be the void when we don't have the hospital. I mean, that's the thing. So we have to get the next available thing, which is the EMS. So so that is good. So yeah, it is a big problem. I mean, I can speak on a little bit, been involved in a little bit. There's a lot goes on, a lot of calls throughout our county. I mean, call volumes is high. Just the other day with the 2-car wreck, I mean, y'all heard about that. I mean, Wallace Rescue, I mean, we're backing up. I mean, they actually come in and transport. I mean, so they were dispatched. But we talk about the protocol, when and how long they'll hold them. As Dr. Grant said, when you have that cardiac, time is of the essence. So whenever you can get there is good. So there's only a certain amount of ambulances that they have now that they respond with. So yeah, another ambulance or whatever we need to still be working on solutions to fix our problem. I mean, because we know a hospital is not going to be the thing. So with that, go ahead.
I move that we do this agreement.
I'll second it.
Prince, all in favor, raise your right hand. Right, unanimous. Thank you. E is consideration and approval of memorandum of agreement between South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control and Marlboro County Emergency Management for the transfer of 2 5K generated by DHEC and Marlboro County Support Shelter Operations.
This is just a simple agreement where they've given us generators and we just have to agree to use them for the purpose they gave them to us for. So just make sure we don't have them, out at Lake Wallace having a party in the boating area with them, You can understand it.
Yes. So we have a motion approved. So moved. Mr. Woods. Glad. All in favor, raise your right hand.
last month, we appointed Mr. Collins as, Commissioner for Fire Rec Department. It was brought to my attention that, his health is not as what I thought it was. He getting up in age, and we talked, and I asked him who would be a good replacement. And, even working from a young lady called Miranda Ingram, ever since in basketball season. And at this time, I said, are you sure, after 4 7 years in, of service, and no children in, I understand that. And, I'm asking the committee, my colleague, to, endorse me when I put Miranda Ingram as commissioner for Fire Recreation Department.
Go ahead, there's a motion for Miranda Ingram, Fire Rec, we have a second.
Second.
Dr. Grant, second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Any more reports, board commissions?
The Economic Development Board needs a seat filled for the Industrial Council. What I'd like to do is make a motion to move Bill Jennings from District 3C to the Industrial Council seat on the Economic Development Board.
It just moved into the industrial setting. Okay, all right. With that motion, we'll have a second. All right. Mr. Glenn, all in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also move Frank Fraser to the Economic Development Function Board for the District 3C.
All right. There's a
Frank
motion
was on it before, right? You've been on for a while, right?
for District 3. Mr. Frank Fraser, motion by, Mr. Midgley, a second.
For the second number two.
Mr. Gladden, all in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Any more reports? Boards and commissions? We still have some that we're gonna get information from, I think planning and zoning, we're gonna try to get us some information. Can we try to firm up that and get it to us by the next thing?
Yes, sir.
And that way we can go ahead and appoint and, I know we've been talking about it. I know I have some vacancies too, but if we can try to get everything filled, that would be, whenever we need them, we don't have to try to rush to fill some of these seats.
We have, I just kind of quit beating on y'all. I mean, recreation, and we have, Mr. Woods has somebody in Wallace and McCall, but everybody else really needs to look and see how active their people are. Let's get us a recreation board that can have meetings once a month and get involved there. Things I'd like to see us do. So I'll get you an update.
Yeah, get some good, we have a recreation board that could, get some ideas, more people that they were ideas to move forward. As we always said, is the last presentation, the only thing we have is ball. And, Dr. Prince has made a million times that we want more than just ball in our area, so we can do that. So any report, if we can get it out soon, we'll try to
Yes, sir.
get those fields.
Mr. Chairman, I will add that, my living Bill Jennings was, he's already sitting on the Industrial Council. He runs SPAC, so he's the only one qualified to take that.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
question.
please.
And maybe the administrator can shed some light. Is planning and zoning something that the council members can do? One back from you?
I think, Harry, can't you assume that, can't they assume that as?
They have difficulty in getting people because they don't meet regularly and many of them are not certified.
You wanna be
Can you
careful
just
because
check on that? It may
if
not be
it's
something
dual
that
office,
we might have to.
that's the
Yes.
question.
I think we'll look into it. I know at one time there was some discussion that there is some way to do that without it being dual office holding, but, because that's always a concern, as Mr. Eastland just said. But we do have trouble getting people, and they have to have training. And we had talked internally as staff about, do you have quarterly meetings and make sure you reimburse them for their travel and their training, because it is a little more than a typical thing, and feed them and all that. Yes, ma'am, that'll be part of what he asked for. I will find out.
That's one of the problems that we ran into before was the training department, having to go for training and meals and gas and things of that. You said, I don't mind doing it, but it's causing me to do it. So I think we need to come up with some kind of plan saying we want you to do it, then of course you need to cut your
They
pocket.
come in and train.
Well, you could do webinars and things. There's some difference. But staff needs to get all that together so you all can take it and tell people, no, you don't have to go to Columbia, you can, we need to make
A
it,
lot of people don't know that.
right, I need to get you all what you need to make it attractive to people.
Thank you. Up next, any more boards and commissions? All right, thank you. Up next, our reports, public safety committee report, Dr. Prince, Mr. Gladden, myself, who else? Mr.
I was, Bert, he's on the committee, yeah.
He's on the committee, so we were trying to remember, we went through so many names today, you get kind of baffled, but we met with the, like I said, the Charities Trust president, and we met with Jeff Paul and Marlboro Rescue to try to just find out where, we met with them last year, or the other year when the hospital closed, try to bring us back up to date, call volume, time response, and they said they were pretty well handling it. There were some times when they do get backed up where all of them happens at the same time, but the thing about it is, it was, I think the numbers were almost 75 to 80% was really non-emergent calls. It was just abusing the system because we don't have a hospital. And so we asked about some pilot programs that they did in some other areas where you could transfer to urgent care. But so they were going to get that information and get back to us, so we can try to have that reported back at our next public safety meeting also. And so, and the other thing was, is volunteers is a hard thing to come by these days, just like we're trying to fill these seats for our boards and commissions. If you're not really passionate about something, it goes by the wayside. So he updated on that, and some more information is going to come from there. Hospital Charities Trust, one of the things they used to do is a nursing program. They used to pay for some of the nurses to go, but one of the stipulations were they had to come back into Marlboro County and work as a nurse. Well, when the hospital went away, that does not give them an avenue to come back in here to work. So, and I think it may have been Dr. Prince given asked if there was a way to start a paramedic, request or the way they would refund or pay for a paramedic to go to school, because that is the things that we need, and that's the things they can't come back to work. And speaking with Mr. Bone, that is a shortage of things across the board. Is your paramedics, it costs a whole lot to go to school, and you're right before getting a nurse, and so the question is, do I go ahead? So it's one of those things that you're passionate about. So it was a good recommendation from Dr. Prince, and they said they would look into that. And there were some other recommendations that they were looking at, is how they can help, what they can pay for the citizens of Marlboro County. They did tell us that there was a dental program that you go to their office. Is it Tyson Avenue? You don't know that it's at Stone Sully State Farm.
Yeah.
So there's a dental program that they have, and there's a prescription program that they have. So a lot of people didn't know about it, but go there and knock on the door and find out about it. As soon as we get more information, we'll try to get out there and tell them to get the people out there. So it was a good meeting to find out. Just keep moving for the next step. As we say, is our hospital closing was, everybody says it's somewhere that carried. We're going to call them 80%. The other 20% is actually emergent people that need, level 2 care that actually is tied up our EMS service. So we're going to try to figure a way what to do, and they're trying to figure a way to actually solve that problem. So, is anything else, Dr. Prince, that you can? Thank you. So we thank everybody for that. Up next, Finance Department. Mrs. Ainsley Moore.
Mr. Chair, members of council, for the month of April, expenditures were at 78%
Senate version passed. They're gonna give the $34 million to the local government fund. What formula will they use to determine how much money each county will get?
I can check on that and find out and let you know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's
Are there any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you. All right.
Dr. Prince, I believe the Senate version, there was a formula how much you got, but they gave it to you and you could use it for what you wanted. The House version was more restrictive. The interesting thing is, you know, they've put 2% more on us for retirement, and they have several versions that said, oh, we're giving you 1% back in the local government fund. But until they get past the $500,000 they've shorted us for 8 years, they haven't done anything. So the Association of Counties is hoping that the Senate version passes. It's in conference committee, so hopefully it will. Mr. Chairman, my report for this month, I'll try to be brief. We've been together a long time today. Employee service anniversaries, we always want to recognize folks that have been here more than 5 years. This month we have Teresa Burgess, 15 years, Chris Byers, 13 years, Arthur Hamer, 19 years, Warren McCall, 11 years, Curtis McDuffie, 20 years, and Sharon Thomas, 12 years. A couple of events coming up. One's you heard about the teen pregnancy program that's going to be Thursday night at the community center. It's 5:30 to 6 is a social hour. Then at 6 is a program when you all have a proclamation they'll present there. We had the Association of Counties 50th annual conference this summer. It's the program that usually council attends or some council members attend. It's obviously a mix of classes and training for council. Be sure to get with Ms. Bundy and let her know if you're going and give her a head count. We've been invited to dinner with Marlboro Electric Co-op and probably we'll get another one for other groups, so we need to know who's going to go. The sooner the better. And I think she's attached all this stuff in there, so I was supposed to remind you all of that. As far as other areas of economic development, in the past month we've had 3 inquiries. We had no visits, although I did have one visit from a local industry. I didn't count that one in there. In partnership with NETC, we held a meeting at the Winn-Dixie building. One of the things I'm trying to do with the partnership is to focus it more on programs that will assist industry and business, and as I've said before, less of a social organization. And this event was to get industry people here at the meeting and hear their thoughts on what kind of programs tech could offer there. You know, welding, whatever, get their input. And also their input on how it's laid out. We had the architects there and all that. Fed them lunch, had a good turnout, and hope this is the first of many events where we do that sort of thing. Also, Public Works has been clearing a couple of lots on 15401. You might have noticed next to, and that's not what you think of. We'll get that next.
I saw that.
Next to Caldy's. Well, the county owns that land, and it's a way to access Boro off 15401. Now, don't get me wrong, it's my opinion, and I've heard loudly, it's a lot of people's opinion. We've spent a lot of money on Boro, and nothing's really happened. But this is something we can do that doesn't cost much money to clear it and hopefully show that there's access from 15 if somebody wanted to put an office there and go in. I did actually, believe it or not, as a result of the meeting at Winn-Dixie, had an existing industry contact and took them to look at that warehouse, and they had no idea. So you see these events we can have with a partnership that are focused on industry, where they're comfortable in coming, they result in contacts that then results in going and maybe actually doing something. So we're not going to spend any money out there other than diesel fuel and spare time. So far they hadn't dug up anything that we didn't want to dig up, but who knows. As far as the administrator's just general report, I think Ms. Bundy prepared a proclamation, or we had the chairman sign a proclamation for Peace Officers Memorial Day, which will be recognized on May 15th. And at that time, we'll fly the flags at half-staff, and that's to honor law enforcement. We also received, you all received an award from the Downtown Association, BDDA, for Best Renovation, which I have, for the parking lot over here, which I don't know, was it 2 or 3 years ago, but we'll take it. If those of you who don't remember, or the audience that doesn't remember, council bought 2 old doctor's offices tore them down and paved this parking lot. It's like it's always been there. It's a tremendous help for us. It's a bigger help for the Council on Aging. I mean, it's like Grand Central Station there at lunchtime. And then in the evening, it's a big help for the Civic Center. So that was money well spent. So we received that. We also received, Recreation Department received a Champion of Young Children Award from the school district. So we're proud to receive that as well. A couple other quick things. One thing that I feel is very important is safety. And when I came here as administrator, I was pleased to see that the county has a safety committee. It's active. And it has people on it from all different departments. So it's not just one group of people. And they meet and discuss issues relating to safety. I have asked them to do safety audits, which is something you see in industry in different forms or fashions. And my experience with it was through what they call the DuPont Safety Program. DuPont's very famous for their safety. And it's basically you go out, you team up, a couple people go into an area they don't work in, but you want to go somewhere with fresh set eyes. And you note things that aren't safe, and you classify them by unsafe conditions. So that would be a trip hazard. Unsafe acts, that would be Mr. Midgley standing on that podium to change light bulbs instead of using a ladder. Or policy rule violations. That's where somebody's clearly doing something they knew they weren't supposed to. And you keep track of these, and you give people a chance to make corrections, in a way that's not like a disciplinary thing until it happens again. So they have, I have to say, man, it's like I deputized all of them, and they're all out everywhere hustling around looking, and they've come up with all kinds of items to work on, and I'm very happy. They're doing a really good job. Another thing that has to do somewhat with safety and security is the administration building access. You may have noticed we have a door there now that requires a tag to swipe to get in. And, that's just sort of bringing us into the next century, and we should have had that a long time ago. We have a phone there, so if you have an appointment with me or someone, you just call the extension and that person comes and gets you. No different than a lot of other places. Domtar, if you go out there, it's like that. But if council needs a badge, we'll make you a badge. The only thing I ask is that if you got the badge and you were to misplace the badge, that means somebody else can access. And the beauty of the system is we can hook it up and tell who came, when, and where. So if you want it, you're entitled to 3 of them. If you're not really going to use it, maybe don't get one. Just my suggestion. And that's all I had. I feel like I've talked enough for today. But I'll answer any questions y'all have or elaborate on anything on the agenda.
Trying to get some answers about getting the owner or somebody to clean this up. I done talked to, what's his name over here in the courthouse, Judge McQueen. I talked to him about it. I talked to Sidney Ross about it. I talked to the guy named Roger about it. He sent him out there. I talked to him about it. And I also talked to Pat, Miss Henny. I talked to her about it. Only thing they did was took my number. I talked to Mr. Glad back there about it too. Only thing they did was took my number. Nobody called back. Nobody tells me nothing. So I'm here trying to figure out what can I do about this situation.
We don't respond, but you talk with our administrator, Mr. Mullen, afterwards. He'll at least be able to maybe hopefully help or point you in a direction.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's what I want to find out. What do I do?
Yeah, if you talk to our administrator afterwards, we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
sold. I didn't get a penny out of it. I had property for 20 years, paid all their taxes on it. You kept that too. Now, my question is, why would I have to pay child support for you and the rest of the people up there? Because your child there for the school tax. I don't mind paying property tax. But if I don't have no child over there, that don't make sense. I mean, if you have a problem with school, you got all these college graduates, all of them can't be working. Why don't you take them and put them back in school and let them work with the kids? I mean, taxpayer pay for, why don't they give something back to the taxpayer? That's what I have to say. Do I get an answer, or do I have to wait and come back again?
You have another minute and a half to address council if you'd like.
Well, it's gonna be about that. So all I'm looking for is an answer, how do I benefit from paying the taxes like that?
We've done responded to you a couple times.
What was your response earlier? I knew I could like to call you, but I want to know what the response was.
I'm not gonna respond again tonight.
So you don't have an answer. I just pay for the grandkids, right? That's what you're saying, I pay for the grandkids. Everybody else go off, send money back on them, off of the money that I invested in them.
Sir, this is not the school board, so if you need school board information,
You take
I think they meet on the first Mondays of every
I
month.
understand that, I understand that, but you
So
take
we're not gonna get any more discussion.
This is not a discussion, this is facts. These are
If
facts.
you, hold on a minute, if you have anything else to address
Okay,
council
you take
for,
on my time.
if you have anything else to address council for, address it.
Okay, but, you say you're not school, but I understand that, but you take out the money from them. If you go to Walmart and buy something, and they come from China, Walmart not gonna send you to China. They gonna take care of it right there. Cause you gave them your money. You're not gonna go to China. It's just an expression that is facts. So I deserve an answer. Everybody else deserves an answer. If you don't have one, just say you don't know what to do with it. I just gave you another suggestion. I gave you two suggestions. You took one and stuck the money in your pocket. You took the property and sold it and stuck the money in your pocket.
Your 3 minutes is up, sir.
Now, we got to
bang, 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 you know anything, you know. They're not coming at you, they're just saying, help us. That's it.
Great, thank you. I share the same sentiments. It's quite shocking when you see Venezuela on national news. And I've had people that know me from across the country to call and ask, well, what's going on in Venezuela? So we continue to pray for that family, safe return of the girl. I did notice the cleanup on 1541 next to Causey's, and I was saying maybe somebody's going to build something. And you can see the warehouses now that's cut down, so that's a good thing. So now I'm wondering, down on the other end of 1541, with all the rain that we've had, there's been a lot of growth, overgrown property. Can we possibly condemn that property as a public nuisance and a hazard because of snakes and rodents and things, and clear it? If we don't have the funds to tear the buildings down, we can at least get some of the brush cut back or what. It's definitely an eyesore. And beach traffic is coming through. You never know who's coming through, maybe interested in coming here or bringing a business here. So something could be done about that. And the other thing that I wanted to ask about, when will the name go up on the recreation center in Glenwood?
They gave me a date and I can't remember. It's this month. It's like May.
Okay.
It's, yeah, and I think I may have told you in person that there was a delay, but I can't remember. I will get you an answer, but it's happening.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, some people asked me about that, so I just need to let them know.
Well, we need to look at one out on the road that you can see when you go by as well, but we can talk about
All
that.
right, thank you.
Excuse my